Hello YouTube. The Elder Scrolls universe has a variety of creatures and monsters, big and small, strong and weak, well-known and less well-known. Now, the subject of today's video definitely falls in the less well-known category, as we're talking about the Centaurs of Tamriel, creatures that have existed in the lore since Daggerfall and have been referenced quite a few times in the lore since, but have not been seen since. So, after the intro, let's delve into what we know about the Centaurs. So, the Centaurs. They are creatures that appeared in the Elder Scrolls 2 Daggerfall and later appeared again as a playable card in the Elder Scrolls Legends, while being referenced in the lore in several of the other games. The Centaurs of Tamriel are very much like centaurs in other types of media, a tribal race of horsemen with a lower body of a horse and the torso of a man. They're an intelligent species with just as much if not more intelligence than the average mortal. In early concept art from Arena and Daggerfall, they very much look like traditional centaurs from other types of fantasy media. Although in the more recent art from the Elder Scrolls Legends, we can see that their looks have been a bit more refined. They now very much look like a more primitive kind of bosmer with some orcish features for the torso and hair like traditional Nords, and of course a horse lower body. Their skin also seems to be covered in strange patterns, although those may also be tattoos, which could mean that tattoos may play a bit of a role in their society, but we don't really know anything about that since all we have on their tattoos is this one image. However, both this image and their appearance in Daggerfall and Arena and Daggerfall concept art shows that they are able to use a variety of weapons, from bows to spears to axes. Now, in terms of where they live, they mostly seem to live in Tamriel's forest, with them living in many different places. However, the biggest centaur population seems to be in Valenwood, where at their height several tribes lived a nomadic lifestyle across the Valenwood forests and jungles. According to some legends, they were there, in the forests of Tamriel, since the most ancient times, before the arrival of even the elves on Tamriel, when they came to Tamriel from Old Muris, with the elves likely encountering the centaur tribes in Tamriel's forests after their arrival. Over the years, their numbers have fluctuated a bit, with their tribes being quite numerous in the Merethic and First Era, but their numbers dwindling significantly over the years. Although by the Third Era we know that some tribes, or herds as some in the community call them, still exist. Now, we don't know all too much about their society, but we do know that they have their own quite complex language. They have a complex religion, which seems to be a combination of the Bosmer pantheon, with gods like Ifrez and Auriel and Eos playing a role, while also worshipping their own direct ancestors seemingly. Interestingly enough though, some on Tamriel actually worship them, likely bringing the centaurs offerings and such in their worship, although we don't know exactly how that system of worship works, as we really only know that the centaurs are worshipped by some. Now, we do know that some on Tamriel are actually quite horny for centaurs and see them as a lust object, but I don't think that actually qualifies as worship. But anyway, what we do know is that some on Tamriel think that the centaurs might not really be a mortal species, but rather they might be forest spirits, much like Spriggans are. This might explain why they call the playable races mortals, suggesting that they might not be mortal themselves, which is very interesting and might explain some of the worship that they receive from mortals, as they might have strange magical powers or something like that we don't know much about. As beyond Daggerfall, they have not really been expanded upon all that much. They have been referenced and mentioned multiple times in the lore, but they've never been shown, except for one appearance as a card in the Elder Scrolls Legends. That said, they were supposed to play a far bigger role in both the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim and in the Elder Scrolls Online, as both developer interviews and cut content data mines show us several things about how Bethesda envisioned their society and envisioned their usage in the games. For one, we know that in Skyrim they were supposed to nomadically trek around the province and hunt mammoths on the plains, leading to conflicts with the giants and the centaurs, which would have been quite cool, but the idea was apparently never implemented due to time constraints, and apparently not even a model for the centaurs had been made, meaning that it was likely scrapped quite early in development. Now, we also know that in the Elder Scrolls Online they were supposed to appear, as data mines show us that several classes of centaur NPCs exist in the data, without models or anything, so also scrapped quite early, but we do know that they have several classes in the game and there were supposed to be some missions concerning the centaurs. From this cut content we can find one pretty interesting thing. and that is that their nomadic tribes are apparently, in the COD content at least, led by females of their species, as they have a specific leader matriarch class, which is pretty interesting. Also, one of their few still existing mentions in the game is for the dungeon Elden Hollow, which is supposed to be a centaur graveyard in the lore, and still is in the final game. Although in COD content, their bones, which are said to have alchemical properties, were supposed to play a far bigger role in that dungeon story, which is interesting but is also COD content. Now, it's a bit of a shame that in the final game they never appeared. There's some suggestion that the Elder Scrolls Online developers might have forgot about the Centaurs, although they are present in the data mines, so I don't know. That's why I haven't really speculated on where they are in the second era, as they seem to be cut for time constraints, just like the Imga. As both the Imga and the Centaur seem to have been cut for time constraints, which is kind of a shame, and I hope that we'll see them in a future expansion or something like that, because in the lore they have been referenced since. And if you now think, hey, who are these Imga that you're talking about? Well, they're an ape beast race that is set to appear in Valenwood, and I made a video on them pretty recently, so check out that video if you want to know more. And that is really all I can say about the Centaurs. Very short video, but still, I very much enjoyed the video, and I hope that you did as well. And I hope that I managed to teach you something new about the Elder Scrolls universe today. And if I did, why not give the video a like, as that's how the YouTube algorithm decides what content is worthy and what content is unworthy. So, you know, please give me a like. That being said, all there's left for me to do is to vocally thank my top Patreon supporters. Mr. Bernardo Binda, His Soul, Gabriel Binda, Doji, K-Legend Hunter Joe, King Chris, Lance Vandertooth, Volker of Argonia, RP the Beast, Devin Mattingly, Rakai, and Sword of Bushido. They and all the others on screen make my videos possible, and for that I am very grateful. That said, I'll see all of you in the next Elder Scrolls lore video, probably next week. Bye bye.